Oh, my bad, ladies and gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen, you're alive. You're here. Welcome to the day after game week. And 1-0, congratulations, we're here. And I think that is all that matters at this point in time. We will go over specifics. We will go over our final thoughts from game number one of the 2025 season. Because believe me, we got a lot to talk about tonight. And I think majority of what we're going to discuss is pretty much going to be what you'd expect from what we've kind of pretty much experienced over the last couple of weeks or so. So that's going to be nothing new. That will continue to be the story for the rest of this year. But nonetheless, guys, we are live. This is the 20th edition of South Carolina Live. I am your host, as always, Lucas Hill. Thank you guys so much for hopping on in here, as we got a lot to talk about with all things South Carolina football. Do us a favor. If you're watching on YouTube, hit the like, share, and subscribe button. Turn on those bell notifications so that you are notified every time we go live here on South Carolina Live at the Voice of College Football. Thank you to our users who are watching us on X. Hit that repost button. Hit that like button. Tell 5 Gamecock fans that we are live here tonight. And believe me, you don't want to miss tonight's show. Kind of a slow start tonight, guys. We got only 40 of you up in here. We need some more of y'all up in here. So y'all keep sharing. Y'all hit the likes. Y'all continue to get after it, man. Guys, we got a lot to talk about. South Carolina State week. And this is a week where you should easily win this football game. I don't expect you to struggle at all, but I do think this is a very important week for South Carolina because you got a lot of decisions that you have to make today. And we'll get into those later on in the show. But overall, man, much better fourth quarter. Kind of see the future of what it looks like with a productive group in your building right now. So we still got a lot to look forward to, man. We still got a lot that this team needs to continue to work on because it's only going to be up from here. Lenore's, I didn't even mention. What was funny is that I didn't even mention hardly at all Lenore's yesterday when we had our post game, and I should have, man. Lenore's played like he was a Heisman contender. You know, he would make runs that would just leave you in awe. That 15-yard touchdown on that first play of the first drive of the game, terrific. Zone read and just took it straight up the middle, took a dude and put him on his back, and then went into the end zone. Guys, Lenore Sellers is a very physical runner. Guy does not stop after initial contact, and he continues to show you why he is one of the more physical quarterbacks in the country and why he can be one of the best quarterbacks going into this 2026 draft cycle. Right now, he has the second best odds, according to FanDuel, to win the Heisman Trophy. I wouldn't disagree with that. He is only behind Garrett Nussmeier, by the way, but he really, really showed out, man. He had a really dang good game. And I was very impressed with what he had to show out. So let's get into it. Let's give our final thoughts from Virginia Tech this past week, or really from yesterday. But let me tell you what our keys to victories were. Just a little quick recap from this past week. And I wrote this all down because I thought it was very important throughout the game. And just a reminder, guys, I barely did kind of just miss the first several plays of the drive. I just caught the Lenore Sellers touchdown as I was loading up the game on my phone. But these were my keys to victory for South Carolina. For number one, it was red zone efficiency. You did good in the red zone. I thought you were productive, but you were a missed call away from turning what could have been a 24-11 win to maybe a 30 or a 34 point or 34-11 win. That's how close you were to really flipping the script of that game. So, yes, points matter. And we saw that a lot throughout the week. You know, we saw teams like Baylor, like Texas, like Ohio State, LSU, teams that went into the red zone, came away with nothing because of gutsy calls on fourth down, some not so great calls in the red zone that ultimately were the difference between 6 points and 3 points. But I think overall, against a team like Virginia Tech, that really didn't affect you hardly. Another thing that we had in our keys to victory was play Beamer ball. Special teams are going to make a difference at the end of the day. Were we wrong? You can go back to last Monday's show and you can rewatch it. We said Beamer ball was going to be key. Special teams were going to play a role in this game. They did. Vakari Swain, 80 yards, our kick return for a score. How big was that? That was a huge turnaround for that game. That made all the difference in the world between you potentially going down and maybe holding a slight lead. It would have been a one-possession game the entire time. And special teams can change the outcome of games. That flipped the script from this game potentially being a tight one all the way through to now you grabbed the momentum all the way back and you took it from there and ran with it. Another thing was put pressure on Kyron Drones. They had a depleted offensive line, so you need to be licking your chops. You took advantage of that. Kyron Drones was under pressure a good bit of the time, forced a lot of hurried throws. Guys, he finished 15 of 35 passing. So, completed only 42% of his passes. And I think it was very important for you to do so. I thought it was very important that you were able to put pressure and continue to force him to throw the football. You didn't allow him to get outside the pocket. You kept contained throughout the day. Quarterback containment throughout college football was absolute dog water. It was really bad. I saw a lot of busted plays that went for a lot of yards at the end of it all. It was bad. It was really, really, really bad. So you had to clean that up, and I think South Carolina was one of the few defensive programs, and Clayton White, I know he's hampered on this, especially with his front four. Keep quarterback containment. That's exactly what you needed to do. Teams like Alabama, teams like Baylor, if they failed to do so, and they made them pay for it. Jackson Arnold goes for over 100 yards. Tommy Castellanos got big chunk plays out of getting outside the pocket and letting him work with the space that's in front of him. That eventually was what was going to hurt you at the end of the day. So you still got a lot to look forward to down the course of the season. Again, 1-0 is 1-0. Was it pretty? Oh my goodness, no, it was not. So you'll take anything that you can get. Guys, we talked about starting fast. You did on that first drive, and then you kind of went into a slump offensively. And then our last one was owning the line of scrimmage. I said that you were way too talented on the offensive line to allow pressure to get to Lenore Sellers. Offensive line didn't perform good. They were a liability for you last week. They allowed for what was, in my opinion, not a great Virginia Tech defensive line, if at best an average defensive line, and you allowed them to put pressure on Lenore Sellers. I think Lenore's got sacked, 4 times this past week? Guys, you can't have that. Yeah, you got sacked 4 times. Offensive line-wise, you have to find a steady rotation. You have to find that, guys. You aren't going to win football games if you cannot compete up front. You're going to go up against much better offensive lines. LSU, in just over a month, has a much better defensive line. They will bust you in the freaking mouth if you aren't careful. And if you don't put consistent, be much better in pass pro. These freaking slide protection blocks was absolute dog water. And it's not just from when you, and we poked fun at Rodney Newsome last night. And to be honest with you, we got to get real about that. Rodney Newsome should not have been starting last night. And I heard the talk all last week about the same thing. When we saw the projected depth chart come out from a couple analysts, they didn't have Rodney Newsome out there. There's a reason why. So you got to find a guy at guard. I don't know what the status is right now for South Carolina. I don't know what the overall status is with Shed Surratt. I don't know if they are going to redshirt him or I don't know. So, but the bottom line is, guys, you have to find a freaking guy. Beamer came out yesterday after the win against VT, and he said something about Judge Collier and Shed Surratt. I'm sure we'll hear more in the week. He's injured. He would have had a role today in this game, most likely. He's been out a couple weeks. Thought we were going to be able to get him back, but he just wasn't quite ready. I do think that he's going to play. I don't expect him to play this upcoming week, but I think when it comes to Vanderbilt, I think he should be ready next week with that knee injury. I think it's that knee injury that he's been struggling with, but I'll have to talk to my guys about what the whole ordeal was with Shed Surratt. So I think that overall, if you can get Shed Surratt on the field, he definitely provides more depth compared to the rest of this offensive line. We'll go over some more guys. Josiah Thompson, guys, he's still young. Guys, he got his ass whipped too. I think Ben Ball got some pressure on him, and then he did the same thing with Case and Henry. So you had those two guys that were – Case and Henry had the better half. I thought he was okay, but you can always be so much better, man. So much better. I'm telling you. You got to be able to find that consistency on that offensive line. I'm curious to see what Jatavius Shivers does on the offensive line. I don't know if they're going to continue to play him, but guys, anything can pretty much happen. I do think that Shivers will eventually get more and more playing time. By the way, so again, anything can happen. Anything is possible. So only thing that you can do right now, guys, is just find a freaking lineup that can play. Because right now, you didn't have that. You didn't. So right now, your main thing, if you're this offensive line, is finding a rotation that gives you the best chance of winning. I think Shivers should play. Hopefully he gets healthy again. So that's all you can really say, man. I should not be concerned about Jatavius Shivers. But again, man, he's got a really, really good the thing that's ahead for him at the end of the day. So I don't know, man. I really don't know. So let me take a quick break real fast. We'll be right back. We'll break down South Carolina State. We'll get you guys updated around the SEC, things that you need to look out for this upcoming weekend. You're tuned in to South Carolina Live here at the Voice of College Football.
You can make a difference here at the Voice of College Football. Use the Amazon link. Financially contribute to the Voice of College Football without spending a penny. Same shopping experience. It's easy. Go to any video on any channel. Go to the description section and grab the link right next to the capital letters that say Amazon. Use that link, and Amazon will instantaneously convert to your account, settings, history, everything intact, just like whatever link you use right now. No difference. Pay no attention to the product that you see right there. Just go search what you want. Don't forget the Amazon link. Thank you for your support. Sincerely, the Voice of College Football.
So a little bit about South Carolina State going into this upcoming game. Number one, here's a program that's coming off of a pretty good win last week. Beat a good Wofford team that's in the Southern Conference, that's continuing to get better over time with Sean Watson as head coach. Really improved from year 1 to 2 into that Watson era. Went from a 2-9 program. They beat a good Richmond team this past year in the FCS. Got to number 23 in the nation as well. Ended up playing South Carolina at the end of the year last year. Wofford did. But SC State got a big win in Oliver Dawson. So this will be their first of 2 FBS teams that they will play. That South Carolina being one of them, and then going to South Florida as the other. So they'll start FC actual conference play next week when they play Bethune-Cookman. So that I'm really not sure of. But a little bit about their head coach, Chennis Berry, had to take over for a legend at South Carolina State and Oliver Powell, who won a couple of HBCU national championships in 2008, 09, and 2021, 8 MEAC championships. So Barry, who's got a lot of experience in the HBCU circuit, was former Savannah State offensive lineman. He's been in the HBCU circuit since 2003 as the O-line coach at North Carolina A&T. Then ends up going to Morgan State for 2 years as their OC. Goes back to North Carolina A&T as the offensive coordinator. Ends up at Howard, then Southern for about 6 years. Ends up taking the head coaching job at Benedict College. Won a pair of HBCU national championships and won the SIAC conference back-to-back years. Was just named Region 2 Coach of the Year in 2024 for South Carolina State. They ended up losing the Celebration Bowl to Jackson State. So last year in their FBS games that they played Georgia Southern, and I think that was the only one that they played. Ended up losing 14-42 to Georgia Southern. I don't really know a whole lot about them. Very physical on the defensive side of the ball. They've got a couple dudes, couple D1 bounce backs that are in that room. I do believe that one of our backs actually played at South Carolina State before transferring to South Carolina. And I think, could be wrong, he's there sometime. Who was it that was on that roster in 2025 that's from South Carolina State? He's a running back. I'm trying to think right now. It might have been, no, it wasn't Lex Cyrus. It was a Jawarn Howell. That's who I'm thinking of. Yeah, Jawarn Howell was a former South Carolina State Bulldog. So you have quite a bit that you have to look out for when you look at this depth chart for South Carolina State. In my opinion, when Shed Surratt gets healthy, I do think that he'll be taking that guard position. But throughout this week, you need Surratt to get healthy. And in the meantime, you got to find a guy. I'd be more than open to seeing guys like Nolan Hay move around to guard, maybe have guys like Trevon Ball move back to left guard. I think your tackles are just fine. Jatavius Shivers, I would not be surprised if you see him get elevated later on in the game and have him move around the offensive line. You just got to find a steady rotation at this point in time. You don't have that right now. And that's the issue that right now with South Carolina, that's the issue that I have right now with Lonnie Teasley. And Teasley's been taking a lot of crap recently. I wouldn't blame him. And knowing what you have done on the offensive line, guys, this was an issue last year. This is going to continue to be an issue until you fix something on that offensive line. And when you do, that's when you officially have to look at yourself in the mirror and say, it's not me. That we talked about this Monday. Teasley is only in charge of the personnel he is given. You've recruited well. Josiah Thompson is a really, really good prospect. I think he was a 4-star coming out of high school. And he was the number 2 tackle coming out of the class of 2024. He's got to develop more. And I think that when you have an more of an opportunity around them. So that, they will move stuff around when we get to practice later on in the week. Because I think that right now it's Shells Day. I think they'll do pads on Tuesday and tomorrow and Wednesday. They'll go Shells again Thursday, and they should have walkthroughs Friday before we get to SC State. Guys, Josiah Thompson, I don't want this kid's the bottom line is that I don't want this kid's talent to get wasted. I mean, there's a guy that really, really highly recruited, saw some opportunities last year, and you see the talent that's there. And you got another guy to pair alongside on the other side with Kason Evans, who can really, really elevate his game and be a stud on the offensive line. Guys, he can really, really dominate at the tackle position. Think I'm crazy? I mean, you just look at not Kason Evans, Kason Henry. Guys, Kason Henry is a really good football player. So he's been waiting for a while to get his opportunities at tackle. If you can continue to get him staying healthy, he can easily be a solid fixture at right tackle. Do I think he's going to be at that left tackle position? No, not at all. But don't be surprised if we start to see more of a rotation on a consistent basis when it comes to South Carolina State. And that's going to be number 1 on my keys to victory, by the way, is find a steady rotation. And finally, at least show that it's not a Lonnie Teasley issue. Show that it's just you, that you got first game jitters out the way, just like most of college football did. And you can be much better when it comes to your play on the offensive line. And I think part of that is also a reason why you struggled in the run game. Number 2 on our keys to victory. You got to get this run game going. Guys, apart from that 130-yard hard run from Rasul Faison, who finished with 10 for 40. Actually, I think he might have finished with just 4 yards a carry, to be honest with you. Because I'm going back to look at the box score. I think he might have had fewer. No. Yeah, it was 7 for 40. So in reality, he had 6 carries for 10 yards. Guys, he averaged just 0.6 yards a carry. If he doesn't have that 30-yard run, doesn't do that well. So if I am South Carolina, I'm getting this running back room active. I'm getting your guys like us, giving guys like Oscar Attaway and Rasul Faison and other guys involved in this running back room. I'm getting guys like Donovan Murph involved. Maybe I'll get Vakari Swain in the backfield. Not that he will, but it would definitely be something that you'd like to have, a little bit of a wrinkle in Mike Shula's offense, because you saw success early on with the quick game. Once you got the football out quick and you saw guys like Oscar Attaway, Michael Smith coming out of the backfield and making play after play after play, or no, not Michael Smith, Brady Hunt, and getting yards after the catch, that's when you started to see more of a rhythm that South Carolina was playing. You saw them matriculate the football down the field. Even if you were playing a little bit of dink and dunk, you were checking it down and you were getting yards after catch. That's what you need. Right now, I mean, it wasn't until the fourth quarter when you started taking more deep shots, but early on it was starting to work. Why not use those to set up for the deep ball? Certainly worked on the second play of the second to last drive for South Carolina when you had that deep shot to Nick Harbor, which, by the way, how are you going to tell me that Nick Harbor has 3 receptions? And by the way, I think he had 2 or 3 drops in that first half, which I hope that that's it. I hope that with the amount of talent that this kid is, with how good he can be, guys, Nick Harbor showed you why he is a freak of nature and why he is so highly regarded when it comes to top receiver or prospects. Even though he doesn't have a lot of production, guys, he's got an NFL receiver's body. He's almost got a tight end's body, but he's so fast. He is so quick, and there's a reason why he's an Olympic sprinter. One of the fastest guys on the field at 6'5" and 230 pounds. How many guys do you see that are doing things like that? He's almost DK Metcalf-like. That's what concerns me. The thing about this is you have to get him the football, and he has to be able to work on his pass catching. If you can get him single high, let me just say this. If you are a defense and you're playing 2 high shell and you're going man-to-man across the board, you have Nick Harbor on an island, his first step, he'll make you dance around like a freaking ballerina. I want South Carolina in this one to take more deep shots down the field. I don't care if Lenoris plays just the first half. I want him to take his chances down the field. I want to see Mike really open it up so that you can allow for Lenoris to finally get some more opportunities to throw the football down the field. This isn't something that you really kind of struggled with early on. That first couple of drives was because you were so conservative and you were so just, it was so frustrating to see, guys. But again, you can only do so much from that point forward that eventually it was going to happen. A point was going to have to be made, and I think you did that in the fourth quarter. Lenore's another thing. I want Lenore's to try and work on his passing. I want him to take deep shots. I know we said that already, but I want to generate big plays, and it starts with Lenore Sellers. A little bit of time. I don't want him to get to the point where he's losing trust in his offensive line and he's having to scramble. When he does, that's whenever it gets rough for defenses, which is good, but it also puts them at a liability for injury. And I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, Lenore's doesn't need to be doing that. No. Guys, he had a little bit of a Heisman moment. Again, guys, I think it was 3rd and 11. He's about to get wrapped up into a sack, and almost the exact same play last week compared to last year in the Palmetto Bowl when Peter Woods went up high and tried to tackle him around the shoulder pads. Same thing happens. He spins out of that, tiptoes down the sidelines, and gets a first down right before the 2-minute warning. It's plays like that makes him a reason that he could be a Heisman contender this year. I'm not going to sit here and say that he's not going to do that at least once or twice against South Carolina State. But going up against an opponent like that, you don't really need to do that. You don't need to be Superman when it comes to games like that. Now, I do expect you to play like Superman every week, but I don't expect something big like that to happen for this week. Rest of the SEC schedule, yes. Oh, yeah, you're going to have to play like Superman, especially if you want to continue to contend for an SEC championship, which, by the way, that window looks really, really good for you right now. We'll see what happens with Ole Miss. We'll see what happens with Bama down the stretch. Let's see if they can't get their stuff together. But overall, I like South Carolina's chances down the stretch to win the SEC. Knowing the schedule that you have, knowing that LSU game, that could be an early preview of what we could potentially see in the SEC title, depending on what happens with Texas's schedule. Let's see what they do against teams like Georgia, against Florida, against A&M. They're already 0-1 to start the year, and they look pretty vulnerable on offense. Let's see if Sark can't put it together after just one game with Arch Manning. I do expect him to get better overall, but again, anything is possible with this offense. So overall, I think that when you look at where South Carolina is in the field right now, this is their best chance that they've had to potentially win the SEC and potentially contend for a college football playoff. Now, after this game, if you can get the little kinks done on the offensive side of the ball, you got to find more consistency. You got to take deep shots down the field, and you got to go to the checkdowns. Get away from running between the guards. You got to play outside. Right now, your guards are not going to help you from here on out. Until you can find a steady rotation at guard and you can find consistency during practice with your interior offensive linemen, I would not be running inside draw. I would not be running between the A-gaps behind the guards. They're going to be a liability for you, and you may end up getting Lenore's killed if you're not careful enough. So that's my overall thoughts on that. Guys, South Carolina State, this should be an easy win. But this is a very important game because you're number one, you have to find consistency on the offensive line. You've got to find a steady rotation. And right now, I think every spot is open at the guard position. So there is a very likely opportunity for someone to take somebody's job this upcoming weekend. But we are very excited for that one. And now let's get to a little bit of around the SEC. Jalen DeBoer. And for the record, guys, I'm not saying that he should be fired. I'm not. No. That is not happening. Kalen DeBoer is not getting fired. Not this year, not next year, maybe not even the year after. But let's say Bama goes 9-4 again this year. What do you think expectations are I think we found the ceiling for Bama over the next couple of years. And administration-wise, you paid him a lot of money to get him in Tuscaloosa. He's a winner. No question about it, guys. And I continue to believe that he is a winner. I think he can do a lot of good things with this Alabama roster. But, guys, you got to deep down and do some soul searching. Defensively, you look soft. You allowed for a guy that had been running his mouth all offseason about how Alabama doesn't have Nick Saban anymore. He's not going to be there to save them and all this other stuff. Guys, you allowed for that to happen because of your reputation last year. What are you going to do that's different this year? The rest of the season on, these next 3 games, you lose to Georgia, let's see how fast that people are going to continue to lose hope in Kalen DeBoer. Because if that happens, Alabama very likely will be out of the college football race. They're already behind the 8 ball for starting 0-1 and losing to Florida State. Guys, it's a rough schedule because you go to Georgia, you get Tennessee at home, you go to Willie B, you play LSU at home, you play Oklahoma, and then you go to Auburn. Guys, I look at this schedule now, and I look at where you were. I had you winning the national championship. Now, dare I say it? I said the floor for Alabama would probably be either 9-3 or 8-4. That looks more like a 7-5 and 6-6 season, guys. Because I look at now games that, God dog, Alabama could drop these games. I look at games like it's not just Georgia and it's not just South Carolina. LSU, Oklahoma, at Auburn, maybe Tennessee. I don't know. We'll see what they can get cleaned up on the defensive in the back 7. Front 4 wise, Tennessee got after you, man. Tennessee got after Syracuse. And I'm not saying Syracuse's offensive line is better than Bama's. I still think Alabama has a very, very good offensive line. But, guys, you got to get healthy, and you got to find some leaders in that room. Because they know what's at stake. They really do. Things don't change, guys. Things are not going to look good for Alabama from here on out. Guys, you got to make some changes. It has to happen. And if it doesn't, man, you're going to be in a serious, serious bind. That's all I can really say about this Bama team is that you are in a position where you haven't been in it forever. I don't think you've ever been in this situation. Guys, this sucks. As somebody that actually liked Bama and respected the culture that Saban put together, you've got guys like Ryan Williams coming in with an anxiety bear. You have guys like Malachi Moore last year that threw a fit on the field and kicked a football. Should have been ejected from the game. You have guys like Domani Jackson doing some immature stuff like staring down and talking in hella mess to Tommy Castellanos when you're down 7 and about to get off the field on 3rd down. You allow for that. They have no respect for this coaching staff right now. They don't. Let's just be real with each other, guys. They don't respect you. Until you change something in that locker room, nothing is going to get fixed. Nothing is going to matter until you get consistent. So that's all I got for tonight, guys. I know it was a short live show. I just have a lot to do tonight. I got homework. I got other stuff I got to do. But, guys, we will be back on Wednesday for our call-in show. We'll have some more intel from practice. We'll probably get you guys updated on what to expect from this Saturday. We'll give you our projected depth chart. We'll give you some more information on SC State. I just don't have the intel right now, but when we get to by the time we get to Wednesday, I'll give you guys updated on that one. Guys, again, thank you so much for tuning in again. This is the #1 South Carolina Gamecocks podcast. out there. I'm calling it right now, whether you guys want to hear it or not. Y'all have a great rest of the week, guys. We will see you all on Wednesday.
College football is even more exciting when you've got some action on the line, and the games are even better when you're cashing in. And the Voice of College Football is the place to be to get the greatest value. Start with my picks. 75% against the money line, 58% against the spread, and I've got a 40-plus year track record. 11-0 in the college football playoff for me last year against the money line, 8-3 against the spread. And I'm just the warm-up act. Steve Merrill of Wager Talk is our ace in the hole, show stopper. 7 years with the Voice of College Football, over 30 years in the industry. Steve gives us analysis on all the big games, but you can't miss Steve's weekly under-the-radar pick. 28-12 against the spread the last 3 years. You also get picks from some of our top analysts here at the Voice of College Football, including Corey Bratta, Matt Zemek, and Steve Dace. Check out those numbers. Become a YouTube or Patreon member for just $99 per month. Go to the main channel on YouTube, click Join, and then select the betting tier. Do the same thing on Patreon. Make 2025 a winner now.